Hello, my name is Rygh-Pedersen and I'm here to do my AuthorTube Newbie Tag. Question number 1. How did you find out about AuthorTube? Well, I've been watching AuthorTube for many years to try and get information about how to write a book, the craft of writing, and how to self-publish books. So I wanted to see how other people were doing it, if they were successful, which a lot are, and that's great. So I just wanted to be a part of that author community, and let's be honest, if I hadn't found them, then I might not have been writing my books. Well, you only need to scroll through my Instagram for like 2 seconds and it's pretty clear that I am a fantasy author. I have 2 series on the go though. I have a epic fantasy series and I have a fantasy romance series. The fantasy romance series, so far there is The Briar Crown and Appleseeds in the Snow, but there will be more. These are a bit lighter, a bit sexier and spicier, and they are quick, fun reads. Now the other series, the epic fantasy, is darker. It's also a lot chunkier. And so far there are 2 books out, Waking Us a Minor, which was the first one, and The Briar Crown, which was the second one, but you can actually read them at the same time, or you can read one first, because they happen at the same time. And then we will go on from there in book 3 with the whole cast of characters from both of these books and carry on our epic adventure. So my preferred writing tense is the past tense, and I generally write in 3rd person, although I am playing with something that is 1st person contemporary. I can't talk about it just yet though, it's a secret. So yeah, generally it's 3rd person, past tense, and I would say because of the content of all my books that they are adult. I did a long time ago write and publish and illustrate my own children's picture book called A Whiff in the Woods, but I do not consider myself a children's author because I just can't help some of these more mature aspects from slipping into my writing. I am a plantser. So whilst I do have to know where I'm going in the story, so I have the beginning planned, I have the end planned, some bits in the middle, I don't do everything in excruciating detail. It's kind of like if you were to go on a cruise holiday, you have the overall, like, we're going to this island on this day, this island on this day is a rest day, then we're going to this place on this day. But all the other activities that you can do in that time are up to you. You choose them, they're not prescribed or anything. And that's kind of how I see my writing process. As long as I have a general overview, then it allows me that freedom to expand and explore as I'm writing. Sometimes this leads me to a dead end and I get stuck for ages, but usually it lets me, I come up with things that I could never have sat down and planned. So I think that freedom to do a bit of both, a bit of pantsing and a bit of plotting, is beneficial for me. I am, as you can see by my stack of books, I am a self-published author. I'd always thought about self-publishing, but after I had the developmental edit done for Waking Us a Minor, the guy who did the developmental edit suggested I query it, which of course, you know, my imposter syndrome just went crazy, but I did it. Nobody was really very interested. Most people didn't reply, so I just went back to what had been my gut instinct, and that was to self-publish my books, so I can have the cover I want, I can publish it when I want, I have the control. Yeah. That kind of answers question 6 as well, which talks about publishing houses. What publishing company, literary agent do you want to go with? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't. I have my own publishing company, which is HRP Publishing. And our logo here is Helga the Harpy. Why a harpy? Aren't they those horrible, creepy, half women, half bird creatures? Well, HRP stands for Helen Rygh-Pedersen, my initials, but every time I said HRP Publishing or I saw it written down, my brain just said Harpy Publishing. Probably should have named it that. And I did a bit of research about harpies because I needed a logo. So I found out actually that the original harpies were not hideous. They were wind spirits who whisked people away, and I thought that's perfect. I am a fantasy writer. I want to whisk people away to another world for a while, so that really fit. And another aspect which made the harpy perfect for HRP Publishing was the fact that you see so many different iterations of harpies. You see those ugly, hideous, cruel, vicious versions, and that's more suited to my epic fantasy because that is darker, that is grittier. But then you look at a lot of stunning artwork online or World of Warcraft, and those harpies are pretty sexy, which ties in with my fantasy romance series. So there you go, that's a bit about my publishing company because I don't plan on going with another one. Well, I plan on doing some Write With Me sprints. I'm going to be writing most days, so why not invite you along for the ride? You can come into my office, we'll sit down, we'll write for a couple of hours, maybe have a bit of a chat, and you can come and go as it suits you. It's going to be really relaxed and casual. I'll let you know a bit about what I'm writing that day, not too much, we don't want spoilers. But yeah, so Write With Me sprints, they're going to be a thing, and if they are successful and people are interested, then I might also do record with me sprints or live streams where I do I invite you into the booth and you watch me reading out and dramatising my books so that I can publish them as audiobooks. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. What else do I plan on doing? Well, obviously author updates, publication news when I have books ready to come out, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do how-tos because everybody has a different way of writing. There are different ways of publishing. There is so much out there, and I just want this to be a nice cozy place where you can come, we can have a good time. If you're interested in my world, then we can do little discussions about characters, perhaps if I improve my drawing skills as well, because I haven't drawn for a very long time. I can sketch out my characters or a part of the world building and tell you a bit about it whilst I do that. Anything else? Oh yeah, I have a series planned, sort of books, films, music, things that have either directly or inadvertently inspired my fiction. So that will be coming very soon, and hopefully you can learn a bit more about me through that process and maybe find some books or movies that you want to watch. Well, according to my mother, I started writing before I knew the alphabet. I was not content to sit in nursery while the top class got to learn their letters. So I had a book myself and I wrote my little hieroglyphics and retold the story perfectly several times to whichever adult was asking. So it's always been in me, I guess. And then obviously as you learn a bit more through school, I continued to write. Used to have a typewriter. Can still remember the smell of the tape and the keys. And me and a friend used to write stories about our Beanie Babies, as you do, at 8 years old. Yeah, and it just kind of carried on from there. Well, the very first one, that we're going back a long way, but I did do a series a few years ago on Instagram called Quotes of Christmas Past, where I read my my stories from school. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, I can try and find the videos and do like a Christmas advent calendar, or I can re-record them. Absolutely fine. But I guess my first sort of real story when we start talking about novels, wasn't a novel, it was about that thick. I've still got it here, so let me know if you want me to do a video on that particular book. But I started writing that when I was 11, and it was actually the founding story for Waking Ursa Minor. But I am very glad to say that there's only about 2 or 3 aspects, even just a character name, from that original that made it into the final book, which we are all very grateful for, because it was very like preteen angst and awful, just truly awful. But somehow it birthed this, so, which I'm quite proud of. But like I said, I want to do a series on this, so I will go into more depth in that. But off the top of my head, authors that have inspired me: Tolkien with The Hobbit, loved it. George R.R. Martin. We used to rent out our house, and somebody left like the whole set that he'd written up to that point, so probably like 5 or 6 books, I can't remember. They just left them there. So I spent about 2 or 3 weeks literally just reading A Song of Ice and Fire, and I loved it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to create worlds like this. Moving on from there, I found Robin Hobb with all of her emotional damage, and I loved it. Love me a bit of emotional damage. Don't know what's wrong with me. Yeah, and they have really inspired me with what I like to write, and I will go into some more in this series that I'm talking about. Well, when I started sort of really writing with interest about 6 or 7 years ago, I wrote whenever I had the time, whenever I felt like it, and then after I had my kids, whenever I could, because, well, my kids did not nap, ever. My babies, they did not nap. They didn't know the meaning of the word. So it was very, I'm surprised I actually managed to get a book out while they were still so young. But now I'm trying to make this of a more of an established career. So I do try to set regular writing times, which happen to be after I've dropped the kids off. I come home, I come into the office, or if it's too cold, I go by the fire and I write for a couple of hours. And sometimes that produces 1,000 words, sometimes it produces 4,000 words. It depends on the day. I could write more after lunch, but I tend to find my creativity a little bit tired by that point, so I do other stuff in the business, or, you know, social media posts, or some account stuff, you know, the boring stuff, I guess. Well, I used to write everything on my laptop, but in the past year or so, I have been getting so distracted by all the things, all the tabs, and oh, I'll just quickly research this, or I'll just say hello to this person, and whatever. So I've been looking for ways to simplify my writing process, and I actually started not last summer, the summer before, with dictation. So I have a dictaphone, I have a microphone, and I go out into the countryside and I word vomit into the microphone, and then I come home and I plug it into the computer, use the software to transcribe it, and there you go. I have a very, very rough first draft, which I have to usually do a lot of work on, don't we all? But that tends to be a summer thing, and I can't do that if anyone else is around or in the house because it's too embarrassing. And recently I decided to treat myself, splurge on a free write. And this is just a little device. I got the Free Write Traveller. If you know Free Write, I got the Free Write Traveller. It's a little device. It literally has a keyboard, a tiny bit of a screen so you can see like 5 lines, and you can't really do extensive edits on it. You just write. You write, and then it sends it through Wi-Fi to the post box, and then you can download it and then edit it. And so far, I only got it in December. Yeah, I only got it in December. And so far, I love it. It's really just bringing me back to writing. Nothing else, just writing. And I love it. What am I most looking forward to? Well, it would be nice to have some accountability for my writing on my Write With Me streams. So please do come along if you are struggling to get into a writing habit. We'll do it together. We will sit our butts in the chair and we will get writing. So that is one thing I'm looking forward to, is some accountability. And number 2, and the main thing really, is I'm just really looking forward to meeting you. If you just want someone to write with, if you have read any of my books and want to learn more about my process and the world and the influences behind what I write, whatever it is that brings you to my channel, come join in. It's going to be a cozy place for writers and readers to some extent, and I would really like you to join in. So I hope you enjoyed this rather excitable AuthorTube Newbie Tag, and I do hope you will join me for my next video, which will be linked on whichever side it is. As you can tell, I'm a newbie. I don't know which side it's going to be, but please do join me for my next video. And if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching.